Hello, everyone. Welcome to Anointed Lady TV, the home of news and politics. If it is your first time in this channel, you are highly welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. And if you like what we do on this channel, hit on the subscribe button. Also, put on the notification bell so you'll be notified by YouTube anytime we drop a new video. And if you are returning subscribers, thank you very much for always coming back to watch our videos. On this platform, we drop videos every day and we react to every video that come our way. And on this very video, I will be watching with you. And after watching, let's go to the comment section and drop our opinion constructively. Like our videos and also share our videos if possible. See you next time in my next video.
Is there anything like the wave of obedient movement in your state? Because what we are hearing is that political movement that is going to affect the southeastern region of the country and the 5 states. Those who belong to the obedient movement, the Peter Obi supporters, are saying, look, they will take the 5 states of the southeast 100%. Those are some of the political permutations of those who are supporting Peter Obi. Is that fever catching Imo State? You are the leader of APC in that state.
I think I'm a politician, and you know my party is APC. And I have my candidates in my party. And I know that we are currently consulting and speaking to our people to vote for our candidates. So, and I'm concerned with what will come out of my campaign for my party. I don't want to join issues with Peter Obi, who you know is not a member of my party. But I know members of APC are obedient to APC.
Oh, so there are obedience also in APC?
I don't know what you mean. The meaning of obedient means English. Loyalty to party is supreme.
That's the latest political slogan in Nigeria that have been brought into our political dictionary in Nigeria. But let me ask you, what would you be telling your members?
That is Shemu's dictionary. That is not my dictionary. In my own dictionary, what is there is APC.
It just crept into... It just crept into our political dictionary recently, obedient, perhaps coined out of Peter Obi's name. So give us an understanding of what you will be telling the people of Imo State. What would you say you have done to convince them to vote for your party in the next dispensation?
I'm very confident that the reasonable minds in Imo State will vote for my party. Let me start. By 2020, when I came here as the governor, 95% of our major roads were not passable. Today, the major economic roads in Imo State have been managed in a very first-class manner that even the opposition party members are commending my efforts. From 1999 to today, members of Imo State House of Assembly has no place they stay to sit. They are attached to one local secretariat here in Owerri. The Imo State House of Assembly building that was abandoned over 30-something years ago has just been rehabilitated, and the parliamentary environment created for our legislators. There is no member of the House of Assembly who will go into that place, come out, and tomorrow there is an election that will not want to vote for APC. For over 30 years, Imo Standard Shoe, which was a major industry created by Mbako administration, was abandoned and seized by AMCOM for bad loans. My government, within 2 years, have just recovered Imo Standard Shoe. And any moment from now, Imo Standard Shoe will be creating over 10,000 jobs. Recall that the Malaysians came to Nigeria to take a palm fruit, seedlings, to go back to Malaysia. That was the Eastern Palm by the government of M.I. Opara. That palm has been abandoned for over 30 years. I've just recovered that palm. paid off the loans, went to bank memorandum of understanding with the Rouge of Dublin. Our farm is currently producing 100 tons of palm oil on daily basis. And if our performance improvement plan is implemented, Adapan will be creating over 35,000 jobs. Why will those people from there not vote for APC? Over 1,800 workers that were retrenched without pension. I have just paid their pension. That is 1,800 votes for APC. Owerri water scheme. All the residents in Owerri lived without water for over 18 years. Owerri water scheme is running now. Households in Owerri cannot drink water. Why would they not vote for APC? If you come and drive from Owerri to Olu, Mr. President is due to commission these two major routes, two major economic routes that will stimulate commerce in Imo State and indeed the eastern region. Owerri to Olu is properly constructed and lit up. In fact, you can drive from Owerri to Olu with your eyes closed and you won't go into the bush. Owerri to Okigwe, the same thing. A few days ago, I flagged off the construction of Owerri to Umuahia. These are federal rules that have been abandoned for decades. I did these rules with understanding that federal government will refund the money back to the state government. Why will those living in those areas not vote for APC? It is not talking, it's not blackmail.
And tranquility. But if you go to the hospitals in Gombe, right from primary healthcare system that we have to the secondary healthcare system we have completely collapsed. The only healthcare system that is actually, so to speak, working is the tertiary. That is supposed to be referral hospitals have now become the primary healthcare in the state. And it's not able to meet up to the demands of the people. You don't see any improvements in that particular area. Thirdly, our education system is totally in shambles. You can see that we have an education system where the school feeding program, for example, does not meet the feeding requirements of the students. You find out that the facilities, the educational facilities, the primary schools are not there. You only see a shambles of contract scams that takes place in the universal basic education in the state. And friends and families and cronies of the governor are the ones that have been awarded those things. If you look at it, I'll go back to the healthcare issue. You see that the infant mortality rate to the age of 5 years, for each 1,000 births, you have 300 children dying. That is 30%. It's unheard of anywhere. You have a maternal mortality rate of each 100,000 of almost 1,550 women dying. All this speaks to the lack of facilities that will cater for midwifery and for nursing of our healthcare system in the state.
Well, just before you walk away,
just to that, let me just come.
No, since you're talking about health, you know, the statistics that you've reeled out are no different across board in the north.
Well, abject poverty rate in the northern Nigeria, and in particular in my state, as I said, is about 63 to 64%, and is a consequence of bad leadership.
Across the northern states?
It's a consequence of bad leadership in my state. I speak for Gombe State. That is the state I seek to provide leadership for. And these statistics are there. And the simple reason is not far-fetched. You have this level of poverty, and you have the resources of the state being plundered by a particular leader. I'll give you an example. There are budgetary allocations, appropriation made for the executive arm of government in the last 3 years is in excess of 32 billion naira, an average of 11 billion naira a month. And that particular branch of government only speaks to the office of the governor, the office of the deputy governor, and the office of the secretary to the government of the state. I doubt so much that if the deputy governor receives anything or the secretary to the state government receives anything. So one individual on a year-to-year basis receives about 11 billion naira to his pocket. Contrast that with the level of abject poverty in the state. Contrast that with the crumbling infrastructure in the state. Contrast that with the lack of education, healthcare. Contrast that with the outstanding pension liabilities of over 21 billion to those who have worked in the state. How are you going to explain that?
You know, let me take you up on some of the things you've talked about here. You mentioned the education situation in Gombe State and how it's abysmal. It's interesting that Gombe State is ranked 24th with a literacy rate of 39.3%. That's quite abysmal, as you have pointed out.
Absolutely.
Well, the question is, what exactly is wrong? Because I've spoken with a few northern leaders as well, including a couple of governors, who I agree the problem with the North is that it's a challenge, I beg your pardon, to address the literacy issue in the North. What do you think is the problem?
Okay, again, I'll come back to it. The basic and the fundamental problem in Gombe State today is lack of good leadership. When you have a governor who decided to close down schools, for example, you have a school of nursing in the local government, you shut it down. You have school of legal studies, you shut it down. You have a university that has been developed, built, University of Technology, Kumo, in Akko local government. You decided not to only shut it down, but to surreptitiously go behind and purchase that particular university for your own personal benefit, then speaks so much to the kind of leadership that you provide. You're
saying the governor is the owner of the university now?
Well, I'm not saying he's the owner. He refused to allow the university to take off. He brought in some funds to come and buy the university under a bogus public-private partnership. I understand, from what I learned, that that is a subject of litigation now in the courts. However, I'm just trying to point out to you, based on your question, that it is a failure of leadership.
So what would you do?
What would the crumbling state of our education system in
What would you do
state.
differently?
Thank you very much. First and foremost, leadership is about service and not to be served. Leadership is about giving and not to take. There are two major breaks that you need to apply in our state to solve the problem. One is to safeguard the treasury. That is the economy of the state. That is not a problem. We are all students of history. We know how to deal with physical problems. We can deal with it. The second most important element is that of public service. You must place people of integrity in key leadership positions.
Just a second. I asked you about education.
And that is what I'm coming to that.
So just a second. In trying to improve the education improve education in your state, how would you address infrastructure with regards to education? How would you address ensuring that the only qualified teachers are employed? And most importantly, how would you get the children to actually go to school? Because that's also a problem in the North.
Okay. Fundamentally, as I said to you, and I was trying to explain to you, you need people to work. And the public service is the engine room for each and every government. If the public service is not working, then nothing will work. That is the honest truth. Today, what we see in Gombe State is that you have a governor who has only overseers in ministries, directors that have retired, permanent secretaries that have retired have not been replaced. Those who are due for promotions have not been promoted. So when you don't have the engine room working, you cannot sit down and strategically decide or design or plan how to deal with the myriads of problems from various sectors, including the education sector you're talking about. That's where I was headed to. I'm trying to tell you where the root cause of the problem is and how to deal with it. You need to put people who are not corrupt in key leadership positions in the public service. Then you will sit down and strategize and plan on how to deal with these issues. The crumbling infrastructure, education infrastructure, can be dealt with if you say, I as a leader, not under my watch, we are going to make sure that not one single dime is being stolen. That is very key, because you must be honest, you must be trustworthy. Leadership is about keeping trust of the people. It's about being just, and it's about being fair. This is the fundamental problem we have in Gombe State. If we have enough resources that we can deal with in terms of providing those infrastructure, so long as those resources are applied judiciously to that particular area. You cannot sit down and appropriate 32 billion for your personal use and then appropriate 49 million naira for almost 116 children in the state per annum for feeding. That is not going to work. You cannot sit down and bring your family and friends and cronies to provide renovations rather than real infrastructure at bogus contract sums and put them on in terms of renovating classrooms, schools, and the rest of that, and yet expect something better to come out of it. You do not expect that a state government will expend almost over 10 billion naira in establishing a university, and you never allow it to take off. That cannot solve the problem. I think our leaders need to understand the fundamental of this.